A good view here tonight. Hi there. Welcome everybody to what we call Cast Iron Wednesday, and as you can see by the cast iron here in this video, this certainly should apply to that. This, of course, is a tradition that a number of cooking channels have been having every Wednesday, doing a cast iron video, and well, of course, that's why we call it Cast Iron Wednesday. This channel here has been doing it now for a little more than 2 years, and I'm quite happy about that, especially for because all the folks here who like to show up on Wednesday nights, and I very much appreciate that. Yeah, because well, what can I say? Have it's you folks here on YouTube Live that make these live videos so much fun, and I'm certainly more than happy to keep doing so. I've tried to do a different view this time rather than here in my kitchen, so that we've got another view here of what we've got so far of the cast iron rack, for whatever it's worth. And I'd like to say, as always, hello to everybody here tonight. We've got Buckshot Mick or Mike and Cynthia Wesley and Betts cooked in a Griswold #8 that I've had forever. Oh, you're talking about the 500-degree chicken. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you liked it. So, and hello to Cast Iron Fanatic and Rhode Island Eats and Mike M and so many others. Um, I'm actually over in the living room here where the mic is. Yeah, where the rack is, that is, rather largely because, well, I wanted to do a different view tonight, as well as to especially since this new webcam here seems to be showing off a nice wide angle view. I thought I might as well take advantage of it. So as a result, we're, I guess, having kind of like a Q&A on a cast iron tonight. I'm very much open for people to make comments and ask questions about the rack or about cast iron in general, like what any one of these pans might be, because, well, that's really what makes these chats so much fun is the interaction, and I'm really hoping we can do some of that tonight. I guess I should start off with. I saw, for instance, a minute or so ago on the live chat that somebody mentioned having a #4 cast iron, and there's a start here. This is one. Boy, I'm having some trouble recalling where some of these came from. I do believe this was a Brimfield find, I think, and this, of course, is a Wagner #4, which probably dates to the 1920s to 1930s because it still has the heat ring on the side around the bottom. That is Wagner changed to their more familiar smooth bottom. There's skillets from about the mid 1930s or so. I think they were one of the first companies to do that. So, and I'm quite happy that this one here turned out to be a #4. It says a #4A, which I believe is like a mold mark. People who have commented on this say that the A doesn't make this any more valuable, but that's fine. I'm just glad to have a nice size cast iron pan that I've done my best to make use of it. So, and hello again. Explain heat rings again. Well, that's quite simple here. This was the original design of the cast iron skillet because the heat ring was meant to fit into the eye of the stove more than anything else. I mean, these were designed for wood burning stoves. The wood burning stoves, of course, came into use and became popular in the later part of the 19th century, which before that point, of course, people did nearly all of their cooking in a hearth or fireplace or other cooking area, which meant they had to use things like spiders or hanging um, pots and pans. And so it was the cooking stove that allowed them to design flat bottom skillets. And naturally, of course, you had to fit the pan into the eye of the stove in order to get the best heat transferred from the fire to the cast iron. And that, of course, is what they came up with this particular edge here, and that is what was the heat ring. They started phasing these out around the well, after World War II or so, 1930s to 1940s. A number of companies started producing those smooth bottom skillets because, well, wood-burning stoves were becoming a thing of the past, and we were seeing more and more gas burning stoves and even electric stoves around that time, which did not need that heat ring. So that's the basic idea. Some companies, such as Birmingham Stove and Range, kept heat rings on their pans all throughout their entire lifespan. Um, but that really was more of a business decision more than anything else. And besides, a heat ring still works even on newer stoves even today. Although you never see one in the modern day cast iron that they are producing here. And hello as well, Pop Dan. Not seeing very well and having a problem seeing the chat. Well, okay. Appointment with the eye surgeon on Monday, and I do hope everything is going okay there. Likewise with Turner Fowler and well, yeah, I know. Everybody seems to have been sick, doesn't it? We are getting into that type of kind of the year, unfortunately, that time of year. So all we can do is, well, just keep healthy and keep wearing your masks. I'll say that once because that certainly does help. Other than that, well, let me see what else we have. And hello as well to William Hurt and to Clico, and Hippie Longshanks and and Val's Black Cat's Rules. Boy, having a lot of lurkers tonight, I can see, but that's all right. So hello as well to Christine Borgatti, and likewise as well to Debbie and to Mark C. What age is an unmarked with a heat ring? I thought Wagner. Well, there were some unmarked cast iron pans with the heat rings, but those were made before Wagner came out. Oh, excuse me one second. Trouble. Come on, Trouble. Get down from there. Sorry for the interruption, folks. Trouble, move. Come on, come on. Yeah, as you can see, he is pretty much living up to his name again. So excuse me one second. Down, Trouble. Come on. Thank you. Okay, back to business. And that was again unmarked cast iron pans with heat rings. Most of those probably would have been what they called Southern Mystery skillets, the SMS that they produced in the early 20th century and maybe the later 19th century. Um, oh, come on, Trouble. Anyway, cast iron, but Wagner made their unmarked series during the 1950s and 1960s, arguably the 1970s as well, when they had already removed heat rings from their skillets. So unmarked Wagners, as a result, did not have the heat ring for that reason. And if you come across a pan, there are a few, and they're actually pretty common pans that do look like this, about the number 3 size or so, with this kind of a shape and even a heat ring on it. My understanding is that those were generally not believed to be Wagner, although I may be wrong about that. But with the heat ring, I have one somewhere here as well that is actually like that, and I'm told that that is actually a Volrath. So those number threes, it's a little hard to identify some of them for precisely that reason. No response necessary, and likewise, main to main, bad weather coming in. Well, yes, just do be careful. So, hello, Wyoming Yeti as well. Boy, again, recovering from knee replacement surgery. And likewise, um, excuse me one second. I'm sorry, this is becoming something of an emergency here. So let's see what's going on. Trouble? How the heck did you? I'm not even going to ask. Okay, get down from there. All right. Yeah, this turned out to be a little bit unexpected. Come on, Trouble. What the heck are you doing on top of the curtain rod? Come on. Let's see. Let's get you down somehow. All right, come on. Come on. Oh, I know. You got up there, you'll have to get down from there. What else can I say? Yeah. This is a first, and of course, he would happen to do this during the live video, wouldn't he? There. You happy now? Oh, okay. All right. Well, that was a little unexpected, but I'm glad I actually managed to catch that one live. There's trouble in the house. Well, what else is new? I mean, we always do seem to be seeing a little bit of chaos on this channel as well. And I do, and even though cast iron chaos is not exactly the reason, that's not exactly the reason why I call this cast iron chaos. It certainly does fit. Anyway, hello, Arnold Grubbs as well. Let me back up and see your question. I was wondering if you could maybe tell me what this might be. Number no heat ring holding marks are 89A on the bottom, has two pouring spouts that cover with a handle and looks a bit like a golf ball outside. Oh, you've got a Chicago Hardware Foundry skillet. You've got a hammered skillet. First of all, I don't know the reason why, but Chicago Hardware Foundry always had a size number beginning with an 8. They had two-digit size numbers on their skillets, so 89 is a nice size there. And as you say, with it looks like a golf ball. It's got the hammered pattern on the all around it. I'm not lucky enough to own a Chicago Hardware Foundry skillet myself, unfortunately. No, I don't have everything in my collection, but yeah, look it up. As I said, Chicago Hardware Foundry. You've got yourself a really collectible pan. People really love those hammered skillets. So there you go. You got yourself a nice score, and I hope you got a good deal on it. Uh, so there we go. Have you ever seen a four-leaf clover on a skillet with a number? Is the handle? As a matter of fact, yes, I have. I saw one at Brimfield, in fact. And oh my God, I can't remember who the manufacturer was. It was actually a local. It was a small southern manufacturer who put that four-leaf clover on the skillets, and I swear, for the life of me, I cannot remember it. I'm sorry to say. I'm not a cast iron encyclopedia. There's some people who have what seems to be a full-blown encyclopedic knowledge of all of those obscure skillets. I'm not one of them, I'm sorry to say. But I will confirm at least it is USA made and from the early 20th century. I hope Trouble didn't hurt himself. He's lying down though, actually looking very content, and I think I'd better just give one more shot of him just to let folks know that, and then back to the show. So yeah, Trouble is sitting there looking rather pleased with himself. Okay, and hopefully that is the last, I guess you could say, interruption. But anyway, the best. Yeah, there we go. It belonged to my grandmother, who was born in 1894. Well, I'm sure she didn't have the skillet when she was initially born, which is why I would say again that likely is early 20th century or so. Besides, if it does not have a gate mark on the bottom, almost always that means it makes its 20th century make. Griswold is about the only company I know of that was producing skillets in the late 1800s that were still smooth on the bottom and did not have a gate mark on the bottom. Yeah, they were. I mean, that's why Griswold's quality was legendary. So, season my hello, Pestel and Truth. Seasoned my Wagner Ware 8 today. So smooth the flaxseed oil wanted to bead like water. Never had that happen before. Hope it's a good sign. Well, I can only hope you do well with the flaxseed oil. I'm sorry to say, there are a lot of people here who will probably say not very nice things about flaxseed oil, regrettably. You might want to look that up. That flaxseed oil is really, it will work and you can use your skillet just fine. So it's not like you have to strip and re-season your pans, but a lot of people, myself included, really don't recommend flaxseed oil for a few reasons. Within maybe a couple of years or so, I wouldn't be surprised if the skillet, if that seasoning starts flaking off, unfortunately. And I'm really sorry if I'm upsetting you by saying that. Sure. Okay. Well, I can only say, Gene Grube, I do my best nonetheless. Swain had four-leaf clovers on them. So there you go. Thank you very much, Honey Badger. And yeah, that's why that's why, as I said, I appreciate people. I encourage questions and I encourage answers as well. If you see somebody ask a question and you know the answer to it, please feel free to speak up or comment. I am not monopolizing this chat, and as you can see, I don't consider myself to be any kind of an actual expert or all-knowing authority. So I've been proven wrong quite a few times. And likewise, I would say as well, if you know the answer to a question, please don't hesitate to answer it. So, but there we go. That shows that. Excuse me. Yeah, excuse me, but your head is cut off. Well, that's certainly true. Yes, and it's probably not my most handsome feature either. So, but just as you say, I will move the view up a little bit anyway. So hopefully that'll make things a little better for you, Wyoming Yeti. Impressive how you could figure that out so quickly. Well, there are some pans I do know about. As I said, I wouldn't mind having a Chicago Hardware Foundry skillet, but again, with a collection like this, I mean, I have to keep telling myself I really don't need more skillets, and I really don't anymore have an obsession to have one of every single piece of brand of cast iron ever made. Because if I did, my collection would at least be double or triple this size. As it stands right now, I have too many as it is, but I'm actually quite proud of these nonetheless, which is why I have not made a huge effort to reduce the size of my collection. It's nice, for instance, to have two number four skillets. One of these is let me get out the other one here rather than just standing around and talking. There we go. As far as number four skillets are concerned, that was one of them, and here is another. A small logo Griswold number four. I've actually got a little too much seasoning on the bottom. It looks like it's a little faded, but if this were to be stripped again, it would have a very nice finish to it. I meant, yeah, this I believe was another Brimfield find, a number four, that is. Now, the large logo number four Griswold is one of those ones where people pay a bundle for. But I'm happy enough at least to have a small logo number four Griswold. So I certainly have no complaints with that. And going down the list here, let's see what else we might see here. And did you make anything in your cauldron for Halloween? Yes, I did, as a matter of fact. I made jambalaya on Halloween, and I'm just about finished with a video of that. In fact, you should be seeing a video, not just a short either, although it's not especially long. That I should be able to premiere that one on YouTube tomorrow. So yeah, I did a fair amount of cooking, it seems like, for towards Halloween, and that's one reason why I'm not cooking tonight, because right now my refrigerator is stuffed with food. Because over the weekend I did make peanut butter chicken in my poiki, the South African poiki here, followed by the jambalaya, which was made in my Asian made Bayou Classic cauldron. That one I've been happy about. I realized I've had that 4-gallon Bayou Classic now for 10 years. I got that one especially so that I could go, to take with me on a camping trip back in 2012. But I've been doing my best to get a lot of use out of that even after that, because that big that 16-quart Dutch oven, I've made it, several of my earlier Thanksgiving turkeys in that. I've made seafood boils. I've made at least twice. I've done a New England clam bake in it, and I have used it with my annual jambalaya as well. The jambalaya has turned into something of a Halloween tradition, it seems like, in my kitchen, and I wasn't even planning on it that way, but I certainly enjoy having fun with it. Any neighbors join you for some jambalaya? I was fortunate enough to be able to give some away to one of my neighbors. Yes, although I've got a whole bunch yet that I need to figure out what to do with. So that's one of the problems, I guess. Of well, I mean, what can I say? I live on my own, so even though I do my best to try to do a lot of cooking, there's the question, of course, of what to do with all this food once I'm done cooking it. Especially since I've already committed again to losing some weight, because, like it or not, I've put on a few pounds, and I've got to really take care of that as well. Did the trick or treaters come? Yes, as if I had about a dozen kids, several families worth, in fact. So I was happy about that. I mean, a dozen kids is not like 50 or 60 as I encountered one year and one year only, but it's still an improvement from the three kids I saw last year. And I realized as well that I live on a corner house. I live in a house on a corner that has two, not one, but two dead end streets here. And it occurred to me, too late, that if I had hung up maybe a lighted pumpkin on the street, that might have done more to attract even more. So there's always next year, but I enjoyed my Halloween. That's the best I could say. So I had some fun there, and I certainly hope you folks did. I've had great results with grapeseed oil. So, John Agan, yeah. The thing about seasoning cast iron, first of all, no, there is no one oil to season your cast iron with. Everybody says the best oil to season your cast iron with. The answer to that is the best oil to season your cast iron with is what works for you. I know some people who swear by bacon grease and lard. I have been using Crisco and a combination of Crisco and beeswax to season my cast iron, and I've had no complaints about that. So that's really what I like. But I guess the idea is that just that is that you do not want to use a low smoke point oil to season your cast iron because apparently that will tend to burn it off rather than season it. So seasoning your cast iron with olive oil probably is not the best thing to do. On the other hand, as we said, some folks have had some luck with grapeseed oil or corn oil or canola oil, or again, in my case, using Crisco. So, do you roughly know what your collection is at now? I did have the opportunity to count it as I was packing to move. I am at somewhere around 90 to 100 pieces, it seems like. I'm not sure if that counts the lids and the trivets in my collection, though. So, but I mean, especially as a guy living by myself, I really don't need more than that, which again is another reason why I don't own the Chicago Hardware Foundry piece. And who knows what will happen if I come across a number three, though, or maybe one at a yard sale that happens to be selling at a dirt cheap price. You never know. These things do happen. And of course, if you find a score like that, you really don't want to pass it up. And I know even recently I've had some finds like that. It's almost a month ago now at a local flea market, for instance. There was a guy I paid $15 for a set of two BSR number eights, a regular BSR number eight skillet, and a BSR chicken fryer. And I paid $15 for the combination of the two, largely because that was a deal that I could not pass up. Now, of course, I got to find a use for them. It may very well be that they may turn out to be Christmas presents. So I didn't get any trick or treaters, Terry Sinjep. My condolences for that. Do you like upstate? Well, there are some advantages and disadvantages. Granted, I've only been living here for a couple of months and I lived in Massachusetts my whole life, so it does take some getting used to. One thing I noticed, for one, of course, is that distances are much greater out here. You need your car to get just about anywhere in this area, for instance. It's like an hour drive. Is there there's something buzzing in here? That's interesting. I have not one but two ladybugs, and they're definitely ladybugs on the chain of my ceiling fan here. I wonder how they got in. But anyway, yeah, as I said, that's one thing again is that it's that you really need a car to get almost anywhere in this area. Fortunately, at least I have a car, but I just have to be sure to keep it uptake. Also, uh, Boston and Massachusetts, I found out was I was lucky enough to live in the area of several huge foreign markets where you could get just about anything, and they are definitely much fewer to be found in this area here. However, I have managed to find a couple of local shops that do specialize in foreign goods. I found a Middle Eastern spice shop, for instance, in the area that I was very impressed with, and I was happy to be able to replenish my spices with that. So, likewise, the cast iron can be found in this area. I mean, as I mentioned, a really excellent flea market is within a very short driving distance, and also I'm not too far from a very impressive antique center either. It's known as the early Owego, Owego Antique Center. So cast iron can still be found in this neck of the woods, even if there's no Brimfield. Do not show up with cast iron gifts. Yeah, Cynthia, I ran into that problem a few years ago. Basically, I plied my friends and family with so much cast iron, especially on Christmas, that they long ago laid down the law: no more cast iron for Christmas. Of course, I've moved into a new area, so I'm just gonna have to get some new friends now and see what happens there. Why are some BSR Century milled and some not? That's actually interesting. BSR, the Century series, as you know, which was produced from the 50s until their demise in the early 90s. It was 1992 they went, but they finally declared bankruptcy. Yeah, Birmingham Stove and Range, as I've heard from actual former employees, is that they did have a policy that they would charge more for their milled pans, for their pans that were ground down and had that wonderful, the swirling milled marks. They actually upped the price a little bit, or maybe it's the other way around. The pans that they did not grind down to a smooth finish, they sold at a lower price. They only seem to do this during their Century series. I mean, just about all of the the older Red Mountain pans that I know of, they were all nice and smooth, both inside and out. But of course, with their automated production, things changed, and so as a result, Century Series BSR usually have a rougher outside, even if their insides may or may not be smoothed down. But that would be the answer there. Do you consider the Mercedes skillets as BSR or not? That I do not have a definite answer for, because again, there is a Facebook group where there are still former employees of BSR who are actually posting on the internet, and I got a lot of my BSR information from that group. Right now, it's actually called Lodge Griswold and BSR. So it's Lodge, BSR, and Hammered. That's it. Not Griswold. But anyway, as I said, from actual former employees of BSR, they have insisted that they never produced those pans that we call the Mercedes skillets. So it's a questionable one. Uh, there have been a couple of specimens discovered recently of those Mercedes pans. And by the way, they're called Mercedes. They're the ones that have the unusual marking on the bottom, with that actually, not only do they have the heat ring, but they had this triangular, this and this mark design on the bottom as well. So, but there have been a couple of specimens of those found recently that actually were Teflon coated. Yes, I said that right. Teflon coated cast iron pans. And a theory has sprung up because of that, that the Mercedes skillets, supposedly, all of them were initially produced with Teflon coatings. But there's still no documentation to confirm this. And as I said, BSR employees who insist they never produced those skillets. Furthermore, there's the question of why some of those Mercedes skillets also have Wagner markings on the bottom. So it's really a good question. Maybe on the other hand, it was Wagner that was producing them rather than BSR, or who knows? Maybe they were Asian made, but we don't have anything still to definitely prove it. I Within the last couple of years or so, I've come across some wannabe know-it-alls who think that they are absolute experts on cast iron, and they're more like drama queens than anything else. In that, anytime they don't just correct you or correct me if I'm wrong, they go out of their way to really say what an idiot I am for actually daring to promote such misinformation like that. I don't get into drama like that, but nonetheless, I've run across that, especially and including recently with the Mercedes skillets. They're the ones who insist that all of the Mercedes skillets were actually Teflon coated. I am skeptical, and I with a lot of these, especially these older pans, until we get some actual documented proof, I am not going to. I'm not going to state yes, that is actually the case. I have actually seen documented proof about some things, such as the fact that those short um, BSR fish fryers, the ones with the flat top lids, those all came from BSR, and that Lodge never made those shallow fish fryers. Lodge never made them. They did make the deep fish fryers, yes, as did BSR before they went out of business, but Lodge apparently never made those shallow fish fryers. So that's something to consider there. So, of all hobbies to have drama, well, every hobby has drama. That's the thing. I mean, no matter what, there will be some drama, like it or not. Whether you're collecting cast iron or collecting stamps or collecting comic books or collecting Magic the Gathering cards. I mean, drama happens just about anywhere. I was way back in the late 80s. I was an animation geek, and for a while, was attending regular meetings at a local college of monthly meetings of the Japanese Animation Fan Club. This was several years before anime took off and became mainstream. So even then, there was drama going on and politics and backstabbing, and I never really have had much interest in that. So I'm not even going to go into detail about that. Okay, hello, Peg 2. Then just got your connection back. Yes. Oh, yeah. Trouble on the Curtin Everest face. I guess you saw Trouble's little climbing escapade there. Well, right now he is actually just sitting here being nice and calm. Thank goodness. So, with any luck, he'll be like that now until we're done here. So, the new Lodge Museum, says VA Iron or Virginia Iron, has new commemorative Lodge hammered skillets sold only at the museum. Yeah, I saw those. I mean, some people have posted pictures of them, and yes, I'm jealous. Yes, if I ever have a chance to get down to the Lodge Museum, I want to pick up one of those as well. Um, but I guess the question is when I'm going to get to the Lodge Museum, and I don't know yet. I mean, granted, I actually have a week's vacation coming up next week, and I'm sorely tempted to take a road trip down there, except I would need somebody to babysit the cats. It would be like at least a 2 to 3 day road trip. So I would need somebody to help take care of the cats for that. The cats are really going to hamper my road trips, regrettably. I'm going to have to make some arrangements, for instance, to take care of them. Maybe I'll look into a kennel, although they would not like that. Yeah, something to consider. And I'm hearing texts coming in on my phone as well. But nonetheless, one way or another, I will find a way to get to see the Lodge Cast Iron Museum. I read from somebody who has been there already. They've got a wall of pans, specimens of all kinds of Lodge pans, and then right up there on that wall, hidden in one of the top corners of boy, somebody's really texting me going crazy. Hidden in one of the top corners of that wall of Lodge pans at the museum, you'll see the acorn pan. Apparently, that is the only pan, in fact, at least according to the person who posted this. All of the other Lodge pans were this way. So or was it the other way? But anyway, the acorn pan is actually turned around so that's a little hard to recognize. So, yeah, that legendary acorn pan. That is definitely one of those things I would snatch up if I didn't have to pay like $500 to $1,000 for it, just for the novelty value. I went to the museum Wyoming Yeti first day. The thing that really struck out is the Depression area toys. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, during the Great Depression, Lodge, and this is again, Lodge has been a world class company right from the beginning. They actually branched out and produced other cast iron items, especially to generate revenue as well as helping keeping their workers employed. And yes, they did actually make some cast iron toys of various kinds. Probably the most famous of which were their garden gnomes made from cast iron. Yet, I no, if I came across one of those, I would not get it because I don't have any need for it, and I really don't need something that just takes up space. But that's just me. So I just missed buying a smart pan again, cheap because I was broke until the next day. Ooh, $15. Oh, my condolences, Peg Tooth. But we all miss little things like that, unfortunately. At that local flea market I mentioned a couple of weeks back, I came across a BSR chef skillet, but I did not have any cash on me at that moment. I actually had to drive like half a mile or more down the road to get to an ATM to get some cash. And by the time I got back, somebody else had snatched up the chef skillet. So, yeah, I missed my opportunity as well, but it happens. So, and hey, yeah, Papa Dan. Well, that's okay. The best we could say, Papa Dan, is we're all counting on you, or at least just relax and get better. Don't worry about it. This is just YouTube, so it's not it's not the end of the world. We are here and we miss you, and just do your best to recover, and we will be seeing you. So not to worry. The cast iron rack. Yeah, left it with my daughter. Yeah, yeah. This rack here, these wire racks, these things are immensely useful, aren't they? So it's definitely an investment I would really recommend for anybody who has a serious collection like this, especially since a lot of times, again, at places like flea markets, you may even be able to get them used. And now, actually, the angle is a little too high because I do want there you go. That looks about right, so that way you can see the bottom shelf as well. So, you're short of the black lock skillet. Yeah, for some reason. Well, I did, but I gave that one away just before I moved. So, and here it is right here. In fact, this is the black lock 10-inch skillet that I had to replace, largely because, as I've said before, I use this one particularly as a skillet. It's okay. There is a bird flapping at the window. Boy, things that are happening tonight. Let me see. Huh. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, boy, interesting. I wonder if there's some. No, it can't. It isn't even a full moon. Halloween was a half moon. So I don't know. But anyway, as I mentioned, I use this as a chef skillet. It's a great breakfast skillet for that reason, especially because it's light and easy to handle. And again, it has that curved shape. So I really like using this black rock as a chef skillet. If I had managed to score that BSR chef skillet, maybe I wouldn't have needed it. But that's how it goes. So Halloween spell is still lingering. Yeah, no wonder. No wonder trouble wants to get at that window. You might be right. How many of the black lock skillets do you own? Only this one, I'm afraid. I know they've got a whole line of black lock, but I only have this one. I'm sorry to say because, well, again, I mean, Blacklock, they've got themselves a 14-inch skillet, for instance, but I already own not one but two 14-inch skillets, so I really don't have a need to go and spend that money just to have a Blacklock number 14, especially not when I have here he is. Good old Stumpy. And yeah, actually, it's been a little while since I brought him out live. I should probably do this because, in fact, Stumpy here is really good for one thing in particular. Well, no, for quite a few things. But old Stumpy here, I've used before to use up my extra Halloween candy by making what I call a garbage cookie, a huge giant 14-inch or 15-inch cookie in this skillet. And instead of chocolate chips, I mixed in the leftover Halloween candy. So, yeah, that is one way to get rid of your extra candy. Right now, though, the extra candy is still sitting here in this cauldron. This is the one that I hung out, in fact, on Monday night. Ugh. Yeah, this one here, which, as you can see, I still have the candy in it, in fact. So, this particular one is a gate marked uh, cauldron. And from the flat top ears, I'm not sure if that would mean this is indeed from the 19th century, or arguably, maybe because of the way the ears are shaped, maybe even the 18th century. But I have no way to prove it, unfortunately. So, is Stumpy a Century or a Red Mountain series? Stumpy is actually a Century because he has a Made in USA mark. Yeah, two things in fact about this. The larger BSR pans, like the 12 and the 14, for a few years, even though this only has a 14 mark, this is definitely a Century for two reasons. Like I said, it has a Made in USA on the top. That's one. But the other is, if you notice carefully, and here's where you can tell that I'm a cast iron geek, the font, the lettering of the number 14 here at the bottom is the same lettering that they use on their Century series. It is not the shape of those more elongated letters and numbers that they used in the Red Mountain series. So that is why I know old Stumpy here, even though it only says 14. In for at least the first few years of their producing those large pans in particular, they continued to use patterns from the Red Mountain series for, like, say, the 12 and the 14. So it was actually a few years before we started seeing those larger pans with the full no number no dot 14 and 15 inches on the bottom. So that's why, again, Stumpy is definitely a Century series pan. So where did you come across the huge pan? I will be honest, Stumpy came from eBay. This was, again, several years back, before BSR was widely known on eBay. I mean, these days it's very rare, unfortunately, to come across a eBay vendor who doesn't know what BSR means, and that, of course, means they are jacking up the price there, as like they do with everything else on eBay. But for a while this cast iron renaissance was taking place, there were still quite a few listings on eBay for what they just called Made in USA pans or unknown pans, and they were selling them at lower prices for that. So, if I remember right, I still paid a fair amount just because he is a big pan. But that was when, again, I really wanted a big cast iron pan, and believe me, in no way have I ever regretted it. Stumpy, of course, is something that I am really proud of. I've gotten a lot of use out of him, as opposed to this other one here that I think some folks have seen once in a while, and that, of course, is the Griswold number 14 here. Yeah. That was an interesting score as well with that. That one I actually managed to come across at an antique store here in the actually it was in the New York area. So, okay, I don't shop on Evil Bay. Well, I don't blame you. I mean, yes, I have managed to make a few scores on eBay. I will say that. A few, but they are very rare and few and far between. You've got to have a lot of patience to actually find some cast iron on eBay that's worth it. And really, if I remember right, Well, of course, you always stumble across those kind of things when you never expect them. But then again, you could say that any time during during the treasure hunt. So there were a few instances where I was able to get something good on eBay, but they were few and far between. I do believe my one of my all-time favorite kitchen users, if I remember right, I got this one from eBay back in the early days. So this good old pan is at least 10 years old, probably going on 11 or 12 years old now. And that, of course, is the Red Mountain number 8 that I have used in quite a few videos here. It's got a nice smooth inside because, like I said a little while ago. I think they smoothed out all of their Red Mountain pans as opposed to only smoothing out some of the Century Series pans. But yeah, this is my go-to. This would certainly be one of my desert island skillets, the old Red Mountain number 8. So I'm very pleased to own this one. Get a lot of use out of him and this one, and I'm certainly going to continue doing so. So Etsy then is just as bad. When was the last time you cooked with stainless steel? um, Good grief. You know, I don't think well, no, no, I don't think I've ever cooked with stainless steel. In that, I've said before, it's like up until I learned how to cook in 2010, I would have said that I couldn't cook to save my life. And the pans I had in my kitchen then were your cheap Dollar General type of pans. And those, if I remember right, were made from coated aluminum, I guess. Maybe they were steel. Oh, okay. Wait, no, I'm wrong. I did have a stainless steel stock pot. I boiled water in that stock pot. Yes. So, okay, there you go. I did have a stainless steel stock pot. But other than that, once I was hooked on cast iron, that's pretty much all I started using and trying to cook in. So I made an exception for my Wagner aluminum Dutch oven, and that so far that's been about it, unfortunately. So pan the camera, not the pans. Um, Pan the camera? Well, okay, if you want, I'll do that for you. Let's get a view here of this rack and this rack, which has my cauldron, as you can see, as well as some of the lids and my trusty Lodge wok, which would be one of my other desert island pans. Going over to this rack over here. Oh, I have another rack over in the kitchen as well, and that's where I currently keep my enameled pans, as well as a few of my other baking pans as well. But unfortunately, I can't carry the camera over here, over in that view. Um, okay. Amazed you remember the history of where you picked up your treasures. Well, that's just how I am. And it's not just with my cast iron. I've been fortunate enough my whole life. I remember things like that. And I don't know, I'm hoping that means that I'm really enjoying my little, my little collection here because I like these stories of how I discovered these. And I'm hoping that they're interesting stories to tell. And I hope that they make things more interesting, like the fact that this one here, for instance, as I mentioned, is a lid for the made in England new idea skillet. Boy, this lid, this top is dusty. I've got to clean this one off. But anyway, this one was made in the late 18th century, and it was decades, 19th century, and it was decades ahead of its time. And I found this one at the early Owego Antique Center, in fact. And which is now only about like maybe a 15-20 minute drive or so from here. So this particular one, especially with the spiderweb design on it, I remember the first time I saw a photo of this with the skillet, no less, on the internet, and I thought it was Art Deco. I thought it was from the Art Deco time. Because really, the design is the type of thing I think that would have fit directly in with Art Deco. And I was astounded to learn that not only is this made in England, but that it was made in England in the late 1800s. That's what I mean. New idea. That definitely was a new idea. The design of this thing was decades ahead of its time. I can only hope one of these days I've come across a new idea, skillet or Dutch oven to match this lid. I hope. But yeah, those type of little stories, I like remembering them, and I hope that makes this even more interesting. I mean, not just that I'm proud of my collection, but there is some history to it. So that's what I like. Do you have any Abel Skeever? I can't pronounce that. Abel Skeever pans. And have you made any videos with them? Not yet, unfortunately. I had an opportunity to get a Yoto, an actual Norwegian or European made Abel Skeever pan at an antique mall a few years ago, and I passed up on it. I don't know. Granted, I could get an Asian made takoyaki pan easily at just about any Asian market and use that for Abel Skeever. Um, yeah, I think maybe if I come across a BSR Able Skeever pan, I might pick it up. So I've never made Able Skeever. Am I even pronouncing it right? But I have never made it, unfortunately. So that is yet another thing I would have to learn how to do. I've seen the videos. I know you got to use the little knitting needles and turn the balls over slowly as they cook. Oh, hi there. Hi, Trouble. Okay. Excuse me. Uh, Being a BSR large and Martin nut, my knowledge of Wagner is limited. Do you have any knowledge concerning their 17-inch rectangular griddle, such as when it was produced, 1969 and later? Um, I heard way back when, maybe about almost 10 years ago, on the Cast Iron Cooking group on Facebook, somebody posted that he had one of those, and that in fact it originally came from a World War II battleship. He posted a picture of it, so he definitely had that rectangular griddle. And man, was that thing impressive! The thing is like the size of a stovetop. But as I said, he claimed it came from World War II and that Wagner made from them for the military. He also claimed, but I'm skeptical. I've never heard of anything else after other than this guy's boast that there was actually a warehouse full of them still. That military surplus warehouse allegedly had a whole bunch of those rectangular skillets, but I have never heard of that occurring before. I would probably tend to believe that they made those things for the military, though, because granted, I mean, businesses and restaurants could certainly get a lot of use out of something like that, but making them for the military, certainly, I would not. I would think so. I've been collecting for since Poke Park. I've been collecting for about 3 years and can't remember exactly where I picked up most of them. Yeah, thrift stores, online auctions. I can only say that, as I said, I don't know. I like remembering those little things of where I found them. Some of my pans, I do have a little trouble remembering where I found them. In that, I know I found this Griswold number 4 at Brimfield. I think I also found this Wagner number 4 at Brimfield. But I like a lot of remembering the stories of my other fans. Oh, eBay score. That's right. In fact, I believe it was for yeah, that's right. Several years ago, my first big cast iron cauldron. I don't think it was even this one. That's right. I managed to score, and this one was from eBay, in fact, a early 20th century cast iron cauldron that was maybe about 8 to 9 gallons in size. You've probably seen those. They have a double gate mark on the bottom. They have rounded ears. They're actually pretty thin. And I managed to score one of those, and I was pretty proud of it. And I started looking around for, oh, hi, Trouble. And I started looking around for lids, a lid to fit that. And back then on eBay, in fact, I've an unusual. I mean, the guy did not know what he was selling. He sold a 13-inch cast iron lid, and I thought that might have been perfect to fit on that cauldron. It didn't, in fact. But then a little later on, I was astounded to learn that this actually was a great discovery, if I may say so, because it's a BSR Red Mountain camp oven lid that says 13 inches, not 12, not 14, but 13 inches. So as you can see, it's got a lot of pock marks on it. I mean, it's obviously this thing was got a lot of use out of it, either from coals or maybe from rust or something. But the underside, of course, is nice and smooth. So this actually is kind of like one of my prized possessions. So as I said, this actually was an eBay score, and I was lucky about that. That other cauldron, I ended up giving that one away as a Christmas present because I only had that other cauldron for about a month or so when at Brimfield, I managed to score my big 15-gallon cauldron, which, as I've said enough times, I am so proud of this cauldron. In no way, I can't see myself ever getting rid of this one. On the other hand, I didn't have a need for two big cauldrons. And so I ended up giving that other one away to a friend as a Christmas present. But at least, if nothing else, I've got this. And the interesting one of the interesting things about this, other than it being a BSR, maybe one of these days I'll actually manage to find a BSR spider, or even a camp oven that might fit this. But I'm fortunate enough. Where the heck did I? Oh yeah, I had it right here. Fortunately, I made another discovery, and this one, in fact, was a Christmas present from none other than Jeff Rogers. I mean, he has astounded me so many times with the gifts he sent that I have never asked for Christmas. I mean, I can only thank him for his generosity, really just out of friendship more than anything else. But nonetheless, I've shown this one off a couple of times. This is another unique one, the Solid Technics Big Skillet, which is really beautiful. It has a wonderful design for it. It's made in Australia, and it's huge. This thing is 30 centimeters in diameter, very slightly more than a foot. So yeah, my jaw dropped when I opened this up on Christmas morning. But what's also interesting, and this was just a sheer coincidence. I don't even know if I can lift both of these things at the same time. Ugh. Here is the BSR 13 lid. It's almost a perfect fit. The BSR 13 lid fits almost perfectly on this Solid Technics. Yeah, that's heavy. On this Solid Technics skillet. So I'm pleased about that because it means I've got a lid for this thing and I can do baking on this. I've made ratatouille in this a few times, for instance, for that reason. Meanwhile, Solid Technics discontinued their cast iron production only a year or so, or a couple of years after this, which means this is effectively out of print. So, yeah, it's unique. I guess you could call it a collector's item. It was just a lucky coincidence. I cannot claim to have anything other than luck with this. So, which again goes into the stories behind my rack. I like remembering these things. It's going to be difficult to put this thing back. I'm going to have to put this aside for the time being. Excuse me 1 second. Let me put it somewhere. Oh, I don't know. Maybe on top of the cauldron. Good enough. Okay, so, but I like these stories, and I like telling these stories, and I can only hope again that people enjoy them. Do you own any carbon steel pans? For a while, I had a large carbon steel skillet. That was one that I got at a flea market for something like $3, which was one reason why I got it. I ended up seasoning it and I never used it. So I ended up giving it away for precisely that reason. So, um, no, I do not have any carbon steel pans because, again, I haven't had any use for them. But now that I have a gas stove, I should probably seriously consider getting a thin Asian made carbon steel wok. Just because I've rarely used one and I should really learn how to properly use a thin wok. I mean, I use my Lodge wok all the time, but I should probably really learn to use a thin wok. So, what is your oldest known piece? That easily would be the cauldron, as I mentioned, that 15-gallon cauldron. In that was made by the Savory Company of Philadelphia, and it has the manufacturer's name right on it. So, thank goodness, that's how I know that. The Savory Company, meanwhile, lasted from the late 1700s to the late 1800s. Now, based on the law of averages, I had often said that I would date this to the early 1800s, and that's what I had estimated it. Only a couple of weeks ago, somebody contradicted me on that and suggested that the design of this suggests it's more like 1850 to the 1875, which is still nice. And that still makes it my oldest piece. So I do have a couple of other gate mark skillets as well from the 19th century, but this is definitely my oldest piece. So, how is Jamie doing? She's having some issues of her own. I have personal reasons for not mentioning that. So, I mean, Jamie is a very nice person, and I'm not, and that's all I'm going to say here on the internet. Sorry about that. I might advise getting in touch with her if otherwise. Um, what was your most disappointing or catastrophic piece? Hmm. Um. Hey, that's a good question. Disappointing. Disappointing. Oh, of course. That was another 19th century piece. At a flea market, I found this huge gate marked pot that said 14 quarts in size. And apparently it was made by a Philadelphia company. Oh my God, I should know this. Pennsylvania Foundry from the from the late 1800s. Damn it, my mind must be going because they were actually made quite a few. But anyway, this particular one was 14 quarts in size, and the inside of that pot was enameled. And I was thinking, what a great find this was, because I really wanted a chance to cook in a 19th century gate mark pot, and this was a big one. And then I did my research and learned that enameled pots, enameled cast iron in particular from the 19th century, had lead in the enamel glaze. Not only that, but the enamel itself was extremely fragile. And if you try cooking in it, the enamel would certainly shatter. But that was the big thing, the fact that they had lead in those enamel glazes, and they're simply absolutely, and I've said this a couple of times as well for that reason. Enameled pots from the 19th century, I would not recommend getting them for precisely that reason. They would make nice display pieces, but that's it. Do not cook in enameled pans from the 1800s for that reason. So that would definitely be my most disappointing and catastrophic piece, unfortunately. So, Cynthia Wesley, my only number 10 I ain't scared of is my number 10 3-notch Lodge. It's my buddy, and my 14-inch Lodge. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and having a number 14 pan, we are approaching the time of year. Having a number 14 pan is going to be great because with that number 14 pan, you've got the world's greatest turkey roasting pan. And what's coming up now in only about 3 weeks? Hint, hint, hint. Okay, not trying to put you on the spot, but which brand does your collection contain the most? BSR, Griswold, Lodge, or Wagner? Probably Lodge, followed by BSR, because I fell in love with BSR for the history and the mystery of those pans when they were mostly unknown. So I've collected quite a few BSR pans in my collection. Lodge, on the other hand, has been so modern Lodge, that is, has been so easy to get. I mean, what can I say? It's like I've got, oh boy, this is a pile of number 8 Lodge skillets, for instance. From their Made in America, not Made in America, the Cracker Barrel series. Ugh. So yeah, yeah. I would definitely say modern day Lodge is probably the most common pieces in my collection. I mean, I've got like this one here, which, as it says, is the 20th anniversary of the National Cornbread Festival, or even clang, 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 or even this good old Cracker Barrel number 3 skillets, and so many more as well from Lodge. So that would easily be the most common one in my collection. So I hope the doc. Oh yeah, Papa Dan. I hope the doc can help you next week. Yeah, hopefully yes. And do you have any cast iron ashtrays or number 0? Well, yes, I do. I have a fair number of these little ashtray skillets, which, yeah, they do tend to pile up, don't they? So, and I have more than this as well. So yeah, because they're easy to collect, they're usually not too expensive. Hi, Trouble. Hi, hi, Trouble. Hi, hi. Anyway, but yes, I definitely have these. It's like because they're so easy to collect. I've been kind of discerning and trying not to get every one in sight. This one, for instance, was turned out to be completely blank. It was painted. I put it in the lye tank, and it's actually a pretty rough piece. I'm wondering if this might be a recast, in fact, from some company. Hello, Trouble. Let me see. Followed by this one is a Wagner ware ashtray skillet. This one I was pleased to own because, as you can see, this actually has the Birmingham Stove and Range logo on it, and this is in fact a BSR skillet as well. Trouble, you're climbing up the tripod with the camera. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. By the way, BSR skillets, you can tell because of this particular shape, the ashtray skillets. They have this groove in the handle, which they used to put cigarettes in, of course, if you smoked. And I actually have vague memories of seeing these being used as ashtrays when I was a kid. The pour spouts are very, very narrow, though. So, and here's one. In fact, I managed to acquire 2 from again a store in Massachusetts that anybody from Massachusetts might remember. Spags of Worcester, that is, or Spags of Shrewsbury, which is unfortunately gone out of business, like so many companies. Trouble. Oh, I'll be sure the table here doesn't collapse either. This one, I believe I actually managed. No, that's right. I found this one at Brimfield, a different shape of ashtray skillet that also has the Birmingham Stove and Range logo on it. However, despite the fact it says Birmingham Stove and Range, hi Trouble. Despite the fact that it says Birmingham Stove and Range, I think, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. This particular shape of the skillet, and this one is Atlanta Stoveworks, of the ashtray skillet, I believe these were made by Martin Industries or Martin Stoveworks. They may have even made these in their later years after they acquired, well, Atlanta Stoveworks, in fact, in the 1980s or so. But I think these ones here came from Martin. On the other hand, of course, we've got the good old Lodge ashtray skillets. However, these ones I managed to acquire at various flea markets. And by the way, notice one thing. This is definitely a Lodge ashtray skillet because it doesn't have pour spouts. It actually has cigarette rests here. So around I think it was the 1990s, in fact, Lodge discontinued their ashtray skillets, changed the shape slightly, and now they make these tiny things as what they call spoon rests. Because, of course, it's more politically correct now. Yeah, here we go. Let's do this. Here is a Lodge. Okay, let's show the difference here between a Lodge ashtray skillet and a Lodge spoon rest. See the difference? So yes, what am I hearing? Is that my phone? I'm hearing something. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, Lodge redesigned their ashtray skillet into a spoon rest, and this is all you will ever see if you if you get any Lodge these tiny little Lodge skillets. So yes, I do have ashtrays in my collection. Okay, have you used the pancake mix in your Star Wars skillet that comes with it? Not yet. I got these things last year and I haven't unboxed them yet because I want to do a video. Let me bring these out. As a matter of fact, here they are. As a matter of fact, folks, the cast iron cookie skillets are back out at Walmart. I just saw them the other day. They're now $5.88 instead of $5. But I have not seen these yet. Keep an eye out for them because you can bet when these show up at Walmart, they're going to disappear very quickly. I would even advise going out and start looking maybe tomorrow. But no, I have not yet. Oh yeah, this is the one from the Mandalorian. Yeah, the pancake mix is still in here yet. So no, I have not actually used the pancake mix in this. This one, in fact, is from 2 years ago. So I was going to give this as a present. I'll have to figure out what to do with these. But nonetheless, so yeah, there's a reminder, folks. Start looking at Walmart, like it or not. Walmart may be evil, but they, at least at this time of year, they have those things. Let me see if I can get these, put these back so that I don't have cast iron all over the place here. Okay, some some cameos from Trouble camouflaged in the cast iron. I would not be surprised. Have always wanted to know why you seem to like BSR more than Griswold or Wagner wear. The weight of BSR reminds me more of Lodge than either of the others. Well, when I started getting into this hobby, I think, as I said, yeah, I fell in love with BSR for the history and the mystery. I mean, it was because all you ever heard of from those dealers, those antique dealers and collectors out there, was Griswold, Wagner. And yet, if you looked around back in those days, 10 years ago, yeah, a lifetime ago, it was very easy to come across these unknown, unmarked skillets. And nobody seemed to know what they were in those days. And because of that, you could usually get them dirt cheap. And eventually, especially on the internet, people started discovering the history of those unknown pans, coming from a made in America, coming from an American foundry, Birmingham Stove and Range. And I thought the history was interesting, and I thought it was really cool to own an unknown pan from a lost foundry that, again, not many people knew about. Plus, of course, they're great pans. BSR pans are, especially the Red Mountain series. They're nice and smooth when they're not warped. They're a joy to cook in. And yes, they are heavy, but I have liked the thick, heavy cast iron. I found myself preferring it. That's just my preference, but I tend to prefer cooking in the thicker and heavier cast iron as opposed to the thinner pans. So even though I do have several Griswolds in my collection, I found myself really becoming fascinated with Birmingham Stove and Range. And I even put up a website with information about Birmingham Stove and Range that some people seem to like. So funny thing is that my BSR website even had like maybe a 1 or 2 second cameo appearance in one of Adam Raguzia's uh, pizza videos. You know, that guy with 1 million followers or whatever on YouTube. So he used my website as a reference to identify a cast iron pan. After which he has since gone out of his way to bash cast iron. Well, to each their own. Yeah. A brother-in-law in Gulfport, Mississippi, he finds lots. Well, congratulations. I also like them, and back in the day, you could pick them up cheap. You can still pick them up cheap. Um, but it does take some looking for, and don't go on eBay. As I mentioned, only within the last month or so, I scored two number 8 BSRs for $15 total. So they are in the live tank right now. They can still be found. It just requires patience, and that's why we call it treasure hunting. Val's Black Cat's rules. I do give my few aluminum pans a light rub of oil when I wash them. You mentioned a recast. What is a recast? A recast means that someone took a professionally produced pattern and used it to make cast iron pans at their own little foundry. There were a number of very small, yeah, foundries, like maybe run by 1 or 3 or 4 people, and dotted all over the American landscape in the early 20th century, where they would often get discarded patterns, the things that they used to produce the molds from the bigger foundries, and because they could get them cheap, and they would use those to make their own cast iron pans, which they could then sell cheap. And that is what we often see, for instance, with the SMSs, those Southern mystery skillets that all seem to have the same shape. Likewise, there are some famous examples. The WAPAC foundry, WAPAC Canada, the WAPAC, however it's pronounced. They were well known for using discarded Erie and Griswold patterns to produce their skillets. And quite a few of the old WAPAC have pans still have what they call the ghost mark, namely the original uh, Erie mark on those pans. And even though it's more faded out, which is why they call it a ghost mark, yeah, right below or right above or even on top of the WAPAC logo. There is a somewhat famous line of Erie gate mark skillets that antique vendors usually try to pass off as genuine Griswold because it's got the Erie logo on it. So it's Griswold. But cast iron researchers know that those were actually made as recasts because Griswold never made them with that poor quality. You've probably seen them on eBay, maybe even seen them at flea markets. It does have the Erie logo, and usually it has a very big and bold gate mark on the bottom. That's a recast. As I said, they took an Erie or Griswold pattern and used it on their own. It's entirely possible that some people, even individual persons, probably made cast iron pans like that. Now, in those days, no, it was not counterfeiting. I mean, even Griswold. I mean, it was not worth the effort to deliberately try to fake another company's product and to try to turn a profit off of it. I mean, they were frying pans. They even the expensive Griswold series, they were frying pans. I mean, they were generally sold as cheap throwaway items. You've seen vintage ads, the ones where you could get a frying pan, cast iron frying pan for 25 cents. So no, it was really not worth it to counterfeit, which is why they call them recasts. They just did it on the cheap, and that was one way that they did it. So how long did it take you to gain your knowledge? Well, as I said, I got into this hobby about going on 12 years ago now. So, what can I say? I'm a cast iron nerd in that I spend a fair amount of my time, like, say, at work, for instance, when I'm supposed to be doing work, browsing the internet and going to those websites for the cast iron collector and the Wagner and Griswold Society, and just browsing their conversations and learning a lot, and browsing eBay because even though buying cast iron on eBay usually is a ripoff, you learn a lot of information by seeing those pans there on eBay. So back a while, Pawpaw Dan. Back a while back, someone outbid me on a BSR Century number 12 Dutch oven. Oh, my condolences about that. I know he cleans with a wire wheel. Ouch. Well, my condolences. And in that case, then I'd say it's a good thing that you were outbid on it then. So I've only been at it a couple of years now. I am hardly one of the best authorities. I will be the first to say that. I have been wrong on a number of occasions. And I guess because my website is kind of well known, there have been people who have really pointed out very loudly that my information has been wrong. So, but I already went over that subject. Buckshot Mike or Nick. My first ever pan was BSR kitchen chicken fryer, and review was how I figured out what it was. Well, thank you very much. But yeah, that's just it. Exactly. Having the mystery solved. See what I mean? It's things like that. There is some kind of an almost mystical appeal to knowing that you're cooking in a vintage pan that could be 100 years old, and who knows who owned that pan, and who knows what meals were cooked in it, and how many kids were happy because of what was made in that pan. So it's things like that there. Cheaper to buy on eBay to save on gas and time searching for something you really want. Well, it depends. I mean, it would take a lot of searching on eBay to actually get a reasonable score. So, who's to say? The best I could say is keep on looking, and I really don't have much more of an answer for that. Holy cow, are we really at 20 past 9? Wow, I didn't expect the time flew, sure, a lot faster than I thought. I have an older YouTube video on, yeah, exactly. And that video is going on 10 years old. A lot of things have changed since then. For instance, in that video, I incorrectly stated that there was a law passed in 1960 requiring cast iron manufacturers to mark made in USA on their pans. I was wrong. I've since produced a video and that clarifies that. No, there never was a law. Cast iron manufacturers were never required to put made in USA on their pans. They did so for marketing reasons, to try to get people to buy their pans, because just that, buy American rather than foreign. So, um, and in fact, there have been a number of pans, especially from BSR, that they produced all the way up to the end of their days, that they did not put a made in USA mark for them on them. And why did they not put it? Well, again, business reasons, marketing reasons. Patriotism really had nothing to do with it. Well, maybe something to do with it, but the main reason was business, to try to make a profit in any way possible. So there were certainly circumstances where it just wasn't worth it for business reasons and profit reasons to put a made in USA mark on a certain batch of pans, and so they simply didn't. Okay, vocal guy. Large one notch is very rare. I don't think so. You have a 10-inch one notch. Well, congratulations. It probably is a lodge in that case. You might call them rare or at least uncommon. Consider this. Lodge made those single notch pans from, say, the 1910s, but definitely 1920s up through the 1930s or so, the Great Depression. So, number one, in the Great Depression, their production of skillets really diminished because, well, just that, the Depression was going on. And there's a lot of history involved with that. That's one reason why they branched out to other things to try to save their business and, or keep their business afloat. So they didn't produce as many pans. Number two, World War II came around after the Depression. And what happened in World War II? The scrap metal drives. And yeah, exactly. Have you got any junk? Have you got any scrap, any iron, metal, or tin? And tons of old frying pans were recycled for the war effort. So quite a few of those single notch lodge pans were lost in the scrap iron drives of World War II. Now they were lost in that they were recycled. Of course, it was for a good reason, the war effort, and I'm not going to criticize that. But because of that, there are far fewer of those single notch lodges out there than you might think. So maybe it's rare. I have one single notch lodge here in my collection somewhere. I could dig it out. Oh, here it is. There you go. And here it is, a number 5 single notch lodge. Um, so yeah, that's one reason why I picked it up. If I remember right, here we go again. I got this for $5 at a flea market in Worcester, Massachusetts. So yeah, $5 for a single notch lodge. You better believe I got it. So yeah, it's got a nice smooth surface. Funny thing is, for some reason it's got this discoloring, and I'm not sure what that is. But nonetheless, it's got a nice smooth surface. Lodge did actually grind down their pans in those days. But yeah, that's as I said, the single notch lodge. I'm glad to own it for that reason because it's something of a rarity. I would not call it extremely rare, but it's definitely something I'm proud to own. I think this table is not stable. All right, I'll have to put this back. But okay, as a relatively new, that surprised me. Well, yeah, there you go. So if you've got yourself a 10-inch single notch lodge, well, there's something to be proud of, and don't hesitate to use it. That's, I guess, I mean, we're getting into that day. We're getting into that time here. We're getting close to an hour and a half. I'm running out of breath here. We found a Red Mountain number 8 with lid for $12 in an antique market. It has a small chip and a 1-inch hairline crack. Ouch. My condolences there. Is the uh, is the crack on the lid or the skillet? Well, I mean, if it's on the skillet, well, you at least you got yourself a really nice lid. So yeah, really, that's still nothing. Yeah, not much to complain about. So most of the roughness is because of this, lodger. You cringed at the mention of the wire wheel. Is there no way to fix after the wheel? Um, Most of the time, I would say no. It's permanent damage. I mean, when the iron itself has been damaged and scratched like that. I can't think of any way to get it to remove it other than just by grinding it down some more. So that's why I cringed on it. I mean, you figure you've got a valuable antique there, even for sentimental reasons. Why would you want to damage it? It's the same reason why I am very much against throwing cast iron into a fire to clean it. What is your favorite camp oven? I have not done a lot of outdoor cooking. Now that I have my own home, maybe that will change. So I had a large 12-inch camp oven for a while, but ended up giving that one away. So I have very few camp ovens. The one I do have for sentimental reasons ugh, would be this large 8-inch camp oven here, a shallow camp oven, no less. This I won at a door prize at the National Dutch Oven Gathering of yeah, 2011. Holy cow. So this thing here is like going on 11 years old. So, wow. Boy, time sure flies. And I'm told, somebody can also correct me on this. Has Lodge actually discontinued their number 8 I should say, camp oven? I'd heard rumors of that, but I'm not sure if that's true. So, nonetheless, boy, this time sure flew a lot faster than I thought it would. I mean, I was worried that I might be able to extend it to this point, but it looks like we sure haven't had any problem with this, and we could keep on going. In fact, but it is getting like it is still work night, unfortunately. So I really don't know if I can go on much longer. I'm afraid because I am going to have to get to bed. I do get up at 5 o'clock still for work. But yeah, the best I could say is let's make this a to be continued because there's so much more that we could still talk about. And besides, there is always next week as well. So, but thank you very much for being here, folks, and thank you for the questions. As you can see, it's these questions and the answers really that make have made the time fly here. And as I've said before, it's because you folks here show up on these live YouTube live chats. Well, we got 122 people here even now. Oh, well, thank you very much. But yeah, I mean that's what I mean with all of you folks showing up here on these YouTube live sessions. That's really what makes this so much fun. And I really I can't thank folks enough here for being here and for making this so much fun. Yes, I do monetize these videos and I do make some money off of it. I am not trying to live on my YouTube income. I know there are a number of people who have made YouTube videos a full-time job. For me, as I've said enough times, this has really been more of a hobby than anything else and a way to relax and de-stress. And you folks here certainly help with that. So I can't thank you too much about that. Thank you too much for that. That is. And yeah, so thank you everybody as well, and Jane and Jean Groove and Cast Iron Fanatic and Mike Beatty and Christine Borgatti and Papa Dan and everybody. I can only, as I said, thank you for making these videos, these live videos here, so much fun, which is why I can only look forward again to next week, and we'll see what happens next week. Hopefully, I may try to do some cooking again next week. Actually, before then, like I said, I had just about finished that jambalaya video, and I hope to have that online tomorrow. And of course, well, beyond that, we've got, as I've said before, it's November. What's happening in November? Thanksgiving is coming. And not to mention that other holiday, the one that they already have nothing but decorations for in the stores now. I mean, they shut down Halloween decorations at Wally World 2 days before Halloween now. So, yeah, which also means that, as I said, keep an eye out in the stores where you might find something interesting, whether it's the Star Wars skillet or some other special cast iron skillet or cast iron pan. This is a good time of year for and well, what can I say? Everybody here, have yourself a good time because yeah, what's in November? Deer season. Well, there is that too. The second week of deer camp, and all the guys are here. And with that, I think I'd better sign out for the night. Oh, and by the way, okay, and here's good old Trouble as well. He is busy resting on the laptop, the bag where I'm going to be putting my laptop away. So, hi, Trouble. Okay, and I think we are all set now. So, I can't thank everybody enough. So, at this point, I don't think I have anything else to say. Just that thank you very much, everybody, folks. And as always, I'll see you next Wednesday. Have a good evening.